pardons by President Trump, and they're starting to follow a pattern. Late today, we learned from the White House that reality TV show couple Todd and Julie Chrisley are both getting full pardons. They spent nearly 3 years in prison so far after being convicted of conspiracy to defraud banks out of more than $30 million. The couple, best known for starring in the show Chrisley Knows best, were also found guilty of several tax crimes, including attempting to defraud the IRS, which means they were attempting to defraud all of us who pay taxes. One of the Chrisleys' children spoke at last year's Republican convention. Today, an advisor to the president posted a video of him calling the couple's kids to give them the news.
It's a terrible thing, but it's a great thing because your parents are going to be free and clean, and I hope we can do it by tomorrow. I don't know them, but give them my regards and wish them.
So much, Mr. President.
Yes. How are you?
I just want to say thank you for bringing my parents back.
Yeah, well, they were given a pretty harsh treatment based on what I'm hearing.
Well, you briefly heard in that clip Savannah Chrisley, the daughter who spoke at the Republican National Convention in July. She also campaigned for the president on what was billed as the Team Trump's Women Tour. Also tonight, the New York Times is reporting former nursing home executive Paul Walzak is also getting a full pardon, and like the Chrisleys, he too was convicted of tax crimes, accused of siphoning some $10 million from employee paychecks under the pretext it was going to taxes. Instead, according to the New York Times, he spent some of it on a $2 million yacht for himself. And like the Chrisleys' daughter's appearance at the convention, according to the Times, Paul Walzak's mom raised millions of dollars for the president and other Republicans and attended a $1 million plate dinner at Mar-a-Lago. The paper reported he turned in a pardon application in January around the time of the inauguration. The Times says the application didn't focus on his crimes, but instead the political activity in favor of the president of his mom. And the pardon application even mentioned her efforts to sabotage the 2020 Biden presidential campaign by publicizing the diary of his daughter, Ashley Biden. President Trump has given a full pardon also to this former Virginia sheriff, just hours before he was set to report to prison. According to federal prosecutor Scott Jenkins, who served as a top law enforcement officer in Culpeper County, was convicted in December of conspiracy and other charges, including accepting more than $75,000 in bribes in exchange for appointing several businessmen as auxiliary deputy sheriffs within his department. Just 2 months ago, under the Trump administration, Jenkins was sentenced to 10 years in prison. Now he is a free man. The president saying in part in a social media post on Monday, this sheriff is a victim of an overzealous Biden Department of Justice and doesn't deserve to spend a single day in jail. Now, before all these, the president had already pardoned at least 15 others for financial crimes since returning to office in January. Here are some of the high-profile ones listed on the Department of Justice's website. In January, on day 2 of his second term, the president announced a pardon for Ross William Ulbricht, the founder of the Silk Road dark web marketplace. He was serving a life sentence on charges related to the site that the Department of Justice had described as, quote, the most sophisticated and extensive criminal marketplace on the internet today. Rod Blagojevich, the former Democratic governor of Illinois, he was removed from office and convicted of charges that included a scheme to sell an appointment to fill the vacant Senate seat left by then President Barack Obama. He served 8 years of a 14-year sentence before he received a commuted sentence in the president's first term. And then in January, just days into his second term, the president gave him a full pardon. There's also Devin Archer, Hunter Biden's former business partner, who testified before Congress about his business dealings. He got a pardon from Mr. Trump in March. Archer was convicted in 2018 of involvement in a scheme involving fraudulently issuing and selling more than $60 million of tribal bonds. Also in March, the president pardoned former Tennessee State Senator Brian Kelsey. That happened just 2 weeks after Kelsey reported federal prison to serve a nearly 2-year sentence for illegal campaign finance scheme he pleaded guilty to back in 2022. CNN's chief White House correspondent and anchor of The Source, Caitlin Collins, joins me. Now, what rationale is the White House giving for these Chrisley pardons?
They're arguing in part, Anderson, that they believed the sentences that the Chrisleys got here were too harsh, and that is why they're taking this step. I've been hearing for the last several weeks that this was under consideration by the president. People had seen Savannah Chrisley, his daughter, in town in Washington. And so there was rampant speculation that this was likely something that he was considering undertaking, and that it culminated today with that phone call from the Oval Office, from the president to Savannah. You notice in that video, Alice Johnson is standing just off to the president's side. Of course, he pardoned her in his first term in office after a big lobbying campaign by people like Kim Kardashian and others. And so she was there for the call today as he informed the family that they would be pardoning them. And for Savannah Chrisley, I mean, you've noticed over the last few months how she has made a real lobbying effort of her own to get her parents granted this clemency by the president. She spoke at the Republican convention. She's likened what they went through, Anderson, to President Trump's own struggles with the law and issues that he's had. She said that they were unfairly targeted just because they were reality TV stars in this series that really showcased their lavish lifestyle. And obviously prosecutors and a jury agreed to that effect here. And so this is a step that the White House has now taken. We're expecting to see more movement on this this week. Maybe there will be an Oval Office moment with this. That's something that seemed to be under consideration. But essentially that was the argument, is that they were arguing that they had been unfairly prosecuted and unfairly targeted when it came to their sentences.
Yeah, Caitlin Collins, thanks very much. We see you at the top of the hour on The Source. Joining me now is best-selling author and former federal prosecutor Jeffrey Toobin. His latest book is The Pardon, The Politics of Presidential Mercy, and CNN political commentator Elizabeth Griffin, who served as communications director in the first Trump White House. Jeff, I mean, it's kind of fascinating. A lot of them are financial crimes that he is pardoning people for, and have some sort of interaction with his campaign, or
right. I mean, I think that the connective thread among them all is they have all done something for Donald Trump. Either they have paid actual money, like the person who paid $1 million to in the fundraiser, or they were political supporters, like the crooked sheriff in Virginia, like the Chrisleys. I mean, it is the important point to remember, though, is that this is an absolute power of the president, and people can be outraged, people can be unhappy. There is absolutely no check and balance. We've spent a lot of time in the early part of this term, debating about whether the president has authority to do one thing or another. Here, clearly, he has the authority to do it, and he's doing it, and there's nothing anybody can do about it.
How common, Jeff, though, is it in the application for the pardon to cite your mom's efforts, not just on on the president's behalf? You're not talking about the crimes, or apologizing for crimes he may have committed.
I mean, this all is incredibly unusual. I mean, there are a lot of controversial pardons throughout American history, whether it's Gerald Ford pardoning Richard Nixon, Joe Biden pardoning Hunter Biden, but this, and we haven't even talked about the 1,500 people, the rioters at the Capitol on January 6th who were pardoned. I mean, the president is really aggressively using his pardon power, but not for people who have particularly sympathetic stories, only for people who have done something for him. It's all transactional with Donald Trump.
He doesn't really care at this. I mean, he's fully leaning into this.
He's fully leaning into it, and it feels like pay to play to some extent. That the price of a pardon is loyalty to Donald Trump. And what stood out to me is you're watching Alice Johnson standing next to him in the Oval Office there, somebody who many people across the political spectrum supported Donald Trump pardoning in the first term.
Talked about her.
Yeah, this is somebody who was over sentenced and was kind of speaking to a period where we're over sentencing certain drug crimes. That is a cause that he could be using his presidential powers to be championing. There's many people who are wrongly incarcerated or have been for too long at this point. But instead, he's focusing on loyalty to him. But I also think these sort of celebrity causes. I remember in the first term, he toyed with the idea of pardoning Joe Exotic, the Tiger King character. That was kind of a big show at the time, at the end of his first administration. He didn't ultimately do it, but I think he wants people who have given money to him, have proven supporters, but also kind of have a fan base with them.
The other thing, Ed Martin, who the DOJ pardon attorney, he posted about the pardon of this guy, Sheriff Jenkins, from his personal account, saying, "No MAGA left behind. Thank you at POTUS Trump for pardoning Sheriff Jenkins."
No MAGA left behind. That's exactly right. That's what these pardons are. They are pardons for MAGA people. And as I say, President Trump has the right to do that under the Constitution, but it is compared to how other presidents have at least tried to show that they are even-handed or dispensing mercy as opposed to political favors. This No MAGA Left Behind, I think, says it all.
If somebody came up to the president privately at one of his, Bitcoin dinners or meme coin dinners and said, I'll put $10 million in your, I'll get 10 million of your meme coins if you pardon my cousin, he could do that. And that would be fine.
And that is a great question, and it was answered by the Supreme Court's decision in Trump v. United States last year, which said that any official act cannot be prosecuted. A pardon is an official act. It's explicitly mentioned in Article 2 of the Constitution. So the president could stand on the White House lawn and take cash in return for pardons, and there's nothing criminal prosecution could do about it. He could be impeached, but he couldn't be prosecuted.
And by